Imagine a morning without newspapers. No rustle of broadsheets on stoops, no boys sprinting with bundles under their arms, no headlines shaping the day. In the winter of 1899, that absence was real, and it began with a handful of street kids who decided they had had enough. They were called newsboys, newsies, ragamuffins by the adults who watched them. Many were orphans, recent immigrants, or children whose families teetered on the edge of survival. They sold papers on the streets of New York for pennies a dozen, buying them wholesale from powerful publishers, and then keeping whatever they could by selling each copy for a nickel. If a paper didn't sell, the loss came out of the boy's pocket. If a delivery increased its price, the press of survival grew heavier. For most, every extra cent mattered: food, a place to sleep, another day of being young in a crowded, indifferent city. At the turn of the century, two men dominated the scene: Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. Their newspapers were fierce rivals, shaping public opinion and raking in profits. In July 1899, amid a fierce circulation battle, the publishers demanded more money from the newsboys. The price per bundle rose from 50 cents to 60 cents for 100 papers, an increase that seemed small on the books, but catastrophic for a child whose daily income might be $1 or less. Instead of bowing, the newsboys resisted. They walked away from the stands and from the carts. They gathered in small clusters across Brooklyn and Manhattan, on street corners and in empty lots. The strike began as a student of survival. If you can't afford the papers, don't buy them. But it quickly became something else: a coordinated refusal to be exploited, an assertion of dignity by those with the least power. They organized with ingenuity and courage. They printed their own broadsides, plastered the city with handbills explaining their cause, and staged dramatic pickets. They adopted a simple, uncompromising message: don't buy papers from publishers who won't pay the boys a fair price. The strike was leaderless in the formal sense, but driven by charismatic young figures who could rouse a crowd and keep a group moving. They used street smarts and solidarity to shut down sales. The impact was immediate and profound. New York's streets, once dominated by shouts of "extra, extra," fell quiet. Vendors ran out of stock because the primary sellers would not replenish inventory bought at the new prices. Trains carried fewer bundles to the city. For the first time, the distribution infrastructure that fueled sensational headlines and political influence was paralyzed by a ragtag army of children. Publishers tried to fight back. Some called the police. Others attempted to buy splinter groups with promises or small concessions. Hearst and Pulitzer underestimated the resolve of the boys and the public's sympathy for them. Newspapers that denounced the strike found themselves unable to deliver their own stories. Reporters who once scoffed at the ragged ranks now had to report from the sidelines. The press, it seemed, could be pressed. Within weeks, negotiations began. The publishers relented on price and on how unsold bundles were handled, but the victory went deeper than dollars. The strike exposed the vulnerabilities of a system that relied on child labor and placed profits ahead of human welfare. It captured public imagination and fed into broader progressive-era reforms. Child labor laws and fair pay debates gained momentum, influencing legislation and public policy across the nation. The Newsboys' strike of 1899 did not end poverty, nor did it erase the harsh realities of street life. Many of the boys continued to struggle, yet their stand demonstrated a powerful truth: those with little to lose can, by acting together, force change on the most entrenched institutions. Children who had once been invisible became actors in history, forcing a rethink of labor practices and the responsibilities of media empires. A century later, the image endures: ragged boys with newspapers held high, not as instruments of commerce, but as symbols of resistance. Their strike is a reminder that social change often begins in the margins, that courage can come from the most unexpected places, and that even the mightiest presses can be silenced by the steady, persistent voice of the oppressed.